Hi, I'm Brian Russell. Welcome to Walking and Talking Spirituality. I saw a great quote from the 19th century German philosopher Schopenhauer this week, and it goes something like this: everyone mistakes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world. Everyone mistakes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world. And as I pondered that, I thought that's a brilliant insight when we apply that to our spiritual life and our spiritual journey, because what Schopenhauer's getting at is we all naturally have filters. And one of the dangers of the filters that in systems that we have running inside of our own minds and our own hearts and our own souls is that we can make a fundamental mistake of thinking that the way that we see things is the way that things really are. So in our spiritual lives, and this gets back to the habits, the rule of life that we practice, is how can we make sure that we're growing in love, that we're growing in love for God, love for neighbor, and even love for ourselves? And how can we kind of be as certain in any degree that our own perception of our growth is accurate? Because we don't want to fool ourselves, right? And we also don't want to make the mistake of either thinking we're way behind when maybe we're actually growing profoundly in grace, or even worse, that we think we're way ahead when we have all of these blind spots. You know, I know as the older that I get, I keep recognizing blinders in my own life. The way I treat people, the kind of things that I pick up on, language. There's just so many different aspects of life that we sort of run through these kind of unconscious filters. So how can we make sure that we're not fooling ourselves and limiting ourselves to our own filters instead of embracing, again, the abundance that's around us in this world and living an expansive life of grace? Well, I think this calls for an embrace of practices of silence and solitude. Because I found in silence, and what I mean by practices of silence and solitude, two things have been really helpful for me. Centering prayer. I've committed over the last number of years to sit in the prayer of silence with God pretty much every day. And now for a little bit over a year, I've been doing centering prayer for at least 20 minutes just about every day. I didn't miss too many days over the last year or so at all. And I have to say that's been life transforming. So if you're interested in centering prayer, I suggest that you investigate that prayer of silence, because in the silence, over time, as you sit with God, you begin to see parts about yourself that maybe you didn't know were there. And those can be profoundly healing when you're in the presence of God. And then the other practice that I've been doing for almost 10 years now intentionally is a journaling practice. I call that the prayer of expansive, and you can look that up. Those were the exercises that Ignatius of Loyola set up for the Jesuit order. Or you can just do a simple practice like the one that I've done, and some of you have heard me talk about this before, but this is what literally has changed my life. Centering prayer, and then a simple journaling practice every day. And I never miss this. In the morning, I'll do this after I get back from this walk, matter of fact. I'll do my centering prayer, and then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write, after I do the centering prayer, I'm going to write 5 things I'm grateful for every single day, because gratitude opens us up to abundance. And then I do the hard part of the journal. Though I have to say it's gotten a lot easier after doing this for 10 years. I try to write down anything that I perceive as bothering me, no matter how small it is, no matter how embarrassing it is. And I get that out on paper. And I've noticed that slowly over time, by journaling, by sitting in silence, this practice of solitude, centering prayer, and in the journaling has freed me from a lot of junk that I wasn't even aware of in my life. Again, Schopenhauer said most of us mistake the limits of our own field of vision for the limits of this world of abundance. I don't know about you, but I want to open myself up for the full, abundant life that God has called us to live. I want to be an ambassador of abundance. And I found the best way to not just be focused on what I can see is to use solitude and silence practices to break through my filters to give me more expansive ones about myself first. But when you know yourself deeply, it helps us to engage the world around us. Again, I'd love to have a conversation with you about this. If you're interested, you can reach out to me.